Greetings, grade 9, and welcome to your ninth lesson in economic applications. The topic of our lesson is different types of economies. And to recapitulate, in the last class, you learned that economies could be differentiated according to their nature. And I said that definitely some economies have a history, have a different cultural context, their geography differs, and because of that they are sometimes differentiated as open economy, closed economy, planned economy, unplanned economy. Sometimes they are known as agricultural economy, industrial economy, and also I said that sometimes economies can also be differentiated according to the nature of their development. Some economies are more developed than other economies, and the developed economies are known as developed economies, and the economies that whose income is very low is known as underdeveloped economies. Now today we are going to learn three different types of economies that are differentiated on the basis of the ownership of their resources. Now if you remember, I had given example and analogy of a mobile phone where one mobile phone ran on an Android system, like your mobile phones whose brand names are Samsung, Oppo, all of them run on an Android system. But an Apple phone runs in an iOS system, which means that all the phones have the same features. They can take pictures, they can make a call, they can record videos, they can do all the things that the other phone does. But the software that runs them is different. In the same way, there are different types of economies, but the system that runs them is different. Who owns the resources decides how the system runs. So on this basis, there are three types of economic systems. The first one is called a capitalistic economy. The second type is known as a socialist economy, and the third type is known as a mixed economy. Now, you also have to understand that there are words like capitalism, socialism, and all the ISMs are philosophic thoughts or ideologies. Capitalism comes from a philosophic thought that people should be left to run things on their own, that people can own, they can have free ownership and private property. The belief that every person can have a free ownership and private property is a philosophical thought which is known as capitalism. And this philosophical thought has led on of establishment of economies which are known as capitalistic economies. In the same way, socialism comes from a philosophical thought that all resources should be owned collectively, that all the raw materials, all the resources that you see around you, they belong to each and every one, and there should be a collective ownership of resources. So the belief on that particular thought has given rise to a thought system called socialism, a philosophical thought called socialism. And socialism has again brought out a kind of an economic system which is called an socialist economy. Sometimes you also hear the word communism. Communism is a political thought, and the Communist Party is a communist party that believes in socialism. So let us move over to our lesson. Let us look at the first type of economy, which is known as a capitalistic economy. A capitalistic economy is an economic system where the resources are owned privately and the resources are used for profit motive, and there is least interference from the government. The production, distribution, and fixation of prices are undertaken by private individuals for the purpose of private profit. The second system is known as a socialist economy. And a socialist economy is an economic system in which resources are owned collectively by the whole economy and used for the welfare of the society according to a general economic plan. The third kind of an economic system is known as a mixed economy, where there is a combination of both the private and collective ownership of resources. A part of the economy is run by the public sector and a part of the economy is run by the government sector, which is also known as the public sector. In the private sector, the resources are owned privately, while in the government sector, there is a collective ownership of resources. So this type of an economy is known as a mixed economy. Now, these three types of economic systems can be understood in a much clearer and more easy manner if I give you three different situations. Let us look at a first situation that explains capitalism. Imagine that all my students in the economics class, they have decided to open a hotel in Goa, and they want to go into a hotel business, and they have bought a property and they have thought about earning a lot of money, and they all go over to earn their fortune by opening a hotel in Goa. Now, what would happen to your business? What would it look like? First and foremost, the question to ask is that if you own the hotel and you've started running the hotel, who does the hotel belong to? The answer is that it belongs to you. So in such a business, we believe in private property. Number two, what is your prime motive in running that property? What do you want from running the hotel? The answer is that the hotel is run to earn profits, and your prime motive of running a hotel, of running the business, would be to earn a profit. The next feature of such a business where everyone runs their own hotel would be that how would you behave with one another? In such a business, if you know that your friend is also into a business of the same type, what does that make you? The answer is you have a strong competition in such a business. And with that competition, you will in fact be watching very closely as what prices your friend is going to put for the hotel rooms, and you want to make sure that your hotel becomes better than your friend's hotel so that your business runs well. So it's very important that you run the hotel on with a lot of competition, and you always try to do better than the other person. Now, while you're trying to do better, are you free to make adjustment to your business as and when you want? Will you provide free services like a swimming pool? Will you in fact make your rooms better? Yes, there is an economic freedom in such a kind of a business. You are allowed to run and decide what kind of rooms you are going to have. If you think your customers are going to like rooms that have a yellow color, so you might paint your hotel yellow. Or if you think that your customers, your tourists who come over like so and so kind of a food, you will provide that kind of a food. So there is an economic freedom. In such a kind of a business, we do remember that the customer also plays a very important role. In such a kind of a business, the consumer is sovereign. Sovereign means he is almost treated like a king. So you will try your best to please the customers that have come in, right? You will see that the customers are happy, and if the customers are happy, you will also earn good money from your business. So because of that, environment, we normally see the sovereignty of the customer. Also, how do you know if the customer is happy or not? You will come to know when the customer is willing to pay the price. Even if you raise the price of the hotel rooms, the customer will still pay it. And in such a kind of a business, price plays a very important role. So it depending upon the price that the customers are paying, you will run your hotel. If the prices are high, you will run your hotel with more rooms. If the prices are low and you make less profits, you will run your hotel with less rooms. And all of these are features of such a kind of a business. So if we summarize, in a business where there is a private property, you will have a free enterprise, you will have self-interest, you will have economic freedom, competition, price mechanism of contract. So therefore, to summarize, a capitalistic economy is somewhat like the free enterprise of running a hotel in Goa, where all the economic students have decided to open a hotel in Goa. In a capitalistic economy, there is private property. Every individual has a right to hold property. This means that every individual is free to consume his own private property and do whatever he wants to do with that. The motive, obviously, for his private property is to earn profit. So in a capitalistic economy, every individual is allowed to own his or her own resources, and normally individuals will use the resources to earn a profit. Number two, in a capitalistic economy, decisions can be made on your own. There is free enterprise. There, the hotel owner is allowed to price the rooms in whatever way he wants. If he wants to price his rooms cheap, he can do that. If he wants to make it expensive, he can do that. And definitely a producer will price his product keeping in mind his customers. Point number three, in a capitalistic economy, price mechanism plays a very important role. So how much of rooms you're going to provide, or how much of decoration you're going to do in the room depends on what price you're getting for the rooms, or how much your customers are willing to pay for the room. In such a system, everything is sold in the market. So you will advertise for the rooms in the market. You will tell people that my rooms are available, come and visit my hotel. And in such a way, the decisions regarding whether the customer is going to come to the room or not will depend upon your website, whether your rooms are of good quality, and depending on that, your hotel will run. Number five, there is economic freedom in a capitalistic economy. Everyone can choose to do whatever he likes, whatever he produces or consumes, provided that it is legal and there is no legal sanction against that. And lastly, in a capitalistic economy, a consumer's thought and a consumer's decision is always supposed to be the right decision. A consumer is sovereign. That means a consumer is king. And in a capitalistic economy, a producer will do everything to please the consumer. Now our economic system, which is known as socialism, there is a similarity. We can take an example of an ashram, of living in an ashram, to see the similarity between socialism and what it means. And we have come to know that if you have an ashram, if you imagine that there is a guru that runs an ashram, normally the important thing is the ashram, the resources of the ashram is owned collectively. If you go over to your guru and ask, who does this ashram belongs to? What will the guru tell you? The guru will tell you, it belongs to all of us. It belongs to you. But then you know that definitely, though he says that, it does not exactly belong to you. It belongs to the guru himself. But however, his ownership, he says, is amongst a group of disciples or a committee member who will decide on how the ashram will run. So there is a collective ownership of resources. So though the ashram is belonging to the guru, the ashram would still be under the collective ownership of a group of people. So similarly, in a socialist system, all the resources of the economy is owned collectively. Secondly, if you want to know what goes in the ashram will be for everyone's well-being. So basically, the reason why the ashram was formed was because the guru wants everyone to be happy or get a particular welfare or happiness by living and learning in the ashram. So similarly, in a socialist economy, social welfare is one of the most important motive of living in an ashram, of working in an economy. The next feature that we can see in an ashram is that there is these decisions, whatever is going to happen, how the ashram is going to be run. This is not done in a very free manner. Everyone cannot decide that I can do this and that can be done. In the ashram, there are rules and regulation, and there is an authority which tells you that yes, you can do this, you cannot do that, and you have to live according to a strict discipline. So in the same way, even in a socialist economy, there is planning, and all the work and everything is done according to a strict plan, which is normally made by the group of disciples who the guru might have chosen. The next thing is, in the ashram, you normally don't compete with one another to do better. You do it, whatever work you do inside the ashram is taken as a service. So even if you make the best garden in the ashram, you will not get profits for making the best garden. Why have you made the garden? You have done it because it's a kind of a service. And therefore, even in a socialist system, there is no competition. Everyone works collectively according to a certain objective, but at the same time, everyone works in terms of cooperation. So unlike a capitalistic system, instead of competition, there is cooperation. Under the ashram system, you will obviously see a lot of restriction, that you will not be allowed to do whatever you want. You will not be allowed to have a variety of food, wear variety of clothes, listen to the music in a loud way. And in the same way, inside in a socialist system also, there is strong regulation and interference and restriction on how things are going to get run. So if you look at the features of a socialist economy, the features of the socialist economy is quite similar to the features of living in an ashram. There, the ownership is collective and it is represented through a government or a central authority. They own the resources on behalf of everyone, on behalf of the people. Secondly, all the work that is done in a socialist economy is done with an objective of social welfare. Number 3, planning is very important. Everything runs according to a central plan. There is no price mechanism that will tell us whether to buy this or produce this or not to produce this. In a socialist economy, all the production, all the work is done according to a set plan. If the plan says we have to produce so much of this particular product, we have to build so many of hospitals, then that hospital is built, whether it brings profit or does not bring profit. Number 4, in a socialist economy, there is no competition, but rather there is cooperation. Number 5, there is restriction and there is a lot of regulation on occupation and consumption. And number 5, there are strong regulations and interferences by the government so that the economy runs properly. Now the third kind of an economic system is known as a mixed economy. And the example, the similarity between a mixed economy would be somewhat like a family business. In a family business, we know that normally there is a mixture of private ownership and public ownership, right? So in a family business, if 2 or 3 brothers are running a business, so 2 or 3 brothers, they are allowed to run their allowed to earn the profit on their own. But at the same time, there are some of the things, like maybe the factory belongs to all the 4 or 5 brothers together. Maybe one car is being run by all the 4 or 5 brothers together. And obviously, there is a central authority also. There is your parents, or maybe the senior most member of the family has some authority over the business. So in a similar manner, there are few things we can actually see which are the features of a family business. There is a coexistence of both public ownership and private ownership. You have some features of capitalism and you have some features of socialism. Here, some of the items are owned collectively by the entire family. Maybe all the family lives in a common house, but people are also allowed to earn or do their private or own their own private individual things also. There is some degree of personal freedom. So even though you are working with the family, you can also take some amount of individual freedom. You can take decisions, you can, whatever area or job that has been given to you, you can do it on the basis of your own private decisions on what you think is right or wrong, right? But however, in the family too, there will always be a central planning. There will be a very senior member of the family who will say that in the next 5 years we should be doing this. So everyone listens to the next senior member of the family. Also, even though you are making profits, at the same time everyone looks after the other person. If your brother falls ill, then you look after your brother also. If your sister falls ill, even though you are family members and you are partners in the business, but still you would look after one another. If somehow your brother does not earn enough money, you would still be looking after your brother also. And definitely there is a particular motive of earning profit even in a family business. So therefore, keeping these features in mind, we can in fact look at how a mixed economy runs, and we can see that the mixed economy has the following features. Number one is that there is both a public and a private ownership of resources. Number two, we also see some degree of individual freedom, like a capitalistic economy in a mixed economy. In a mixed economy, along with profit motive, social welfare is also one prime motive. We see that governments will build private hospitals, government hospitals will build government schools, but at the same time, private schools will also run alongside it. Number four, we also learn that in a mixed economy, the economy tries to reduce inequalities of income. So the government sees that there are all kind of necessary steps that are taken to reduce the inequalities of income and wealth. And lastly, there is some degree of government control in a mixed economy. The economy runs with some amount of rules and regulations that is exercised by the economy. So therefore, we end our lesson today. What you have learned is that there are three types of economic system known as capitalistic system, a socialist economy, and a mixed economy. A capitalistic economy is where the resources are owned privately. A socialist economy is an economy where the resources are owned collectively. And in a mixed economy, the resources are both owned collectively as well as privately. There is a private sector and a public sector. The public sector will own the resources collectively, while the private sector will own the resources by private individuals for profit motive. So we could end the lesson here. I would like you to do all your assignments that has been set for this lesson. And until we come to the next lesson, thank you and keep yourself safe and work hard. Thank you.